The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. We are at the new headquarters for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. And you may notice that our show looks a little bit different. I want you to know that this is just our interim studio while our new studio is being built. And we're very excited to be here, but things are going to look a little different for a couple of weeks. But you know what? We're all members of the autism community. We're used to things changing a little bit and going through growing pains, right? But thrilled to be here with you. We're so excited. I'll tell you what, so much has happened in the 4 days that we've been live that I could take 4 hours just to talk with you about some of the people that we met, for instance, at the Los Angeles Walk Now for Autism, some of the news that's been all over the place over the weekend, and we've got some very exciting content to share with you and a truly, truly wonderful guest today. We've only got 2 hours live today, but another exciting show for you tomorrow. I want to remind all of you that this show is meant to be interactive. We want to be chatting with you. We want to be talking with you. We want to hear what you have to say and hear your questions. So right now at the start of the show, we want Kelby to show you some of the different ways that you can connect with us while I remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, so much to do, but please sign up for our email list. That is it's totally free, first of all. We don't give it to anybody else. And what that does is allows you to get a free newsletter at the start of the month, and at the beginning of the week, we send you a notification letting you know what our tentative schedule is for the week. Sometimes something changes though, and if we get somebody really incredible on that we want to let you know about after the date of the postcard, the only way we can do that is by telling you on the live show or if you're on the email list. So I really want to encourage you to participate and be on that email list. Also on that homepage, in terms of things to do, you can be watching the live show or the most recently recorded live show. If you look, there's a computer. It actually looks like a desktop, and there's a computer desktop that's sitting there, and that is interactive. If you click on the little triangle on the screen, it will show you the live show or the most recently recorded live show. And if you click on the playlist that's up in the upper left-hand corner, you can cycle back through the most recent 100 shows to pick one that you'd like to see. Now, to the side of all that, there's a series of boxes. We refer to that as the live feature. Put your cursor in the one that says your questions, start typing, hit enter, and that, my friends, is it. You don't have to log in. You do not need a password. There is no charge for it. We don't know who you are. Furthermore, we don't need to know who you are. But if you do want us to get back to you with any information, if you've asked for something, we've talked about a study or an article or something that, you know, a worksheet that you want to have in your home and you want us to email it to you, you need to give us some information so we can get back in touch with you, because remember, we're flying blind. We don't know who you are. You have complete and total anonymity. When you do give us information that links us up to you, we don't share that with anyone. That's our pledge to you. We know how important it is to keep your business, right? Now, we do like to remind you at the start of the show that we have a bunch of experts on our show, and I am so excited about that. The fact that we have experts that are here that can answer your questions in real time. But I always like to remind you at the start of the show that I am not an expert in autism. Lest anybody forget, that's the honest truth here. I'm a parent and a former teacher. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5, and it turned my life around and upside down and over and to the side. I now, many years later, because he is about to be 12, see the benefits of all those twists and turns. It was hard while we were doing it, but quite honestly, I got so much help and support along the way, and I don't know why. I think it was because I just got plain lucky, and my whole family was willing to work. I will say that my kid worked as hard as anybody can work, but we got help and support, and it became so important to me because I realized how many people weren't getting help and support, that I wanted to be a part of something bigger that gave that support to anybody who was seeking it. So that's a big part of the mission of Autism Live here, to be here to support parents, but it extends so much further than that. If you're a parent, that's great. If you're a teacher, if you're a grandparent, if you're an aunt, if you're a friend, if you yourself are a person who's on the autism spectrum, or you're somebody who is a professional working with individuals on the autism spectrum, we want to be a resource for you so that everybody gets the information that they need to get to the progress that they deserve. That's why we're here. So we bring the experts, and I bring some passion, but I am not an expert. I just like to make that abundantly clear. But we welcome everyone who wants to be here to help individuals who are on the autism spectrum get to their individual progress. That's what it's all about, all individuals. And a little bit later, we're going to be talking about some of the people that we met. What a beautiful event, the Los Angeles Walk Now for Autism. But first, we like to start the morning with something that we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to make sense of it and figure out, what are these experts talking about? And why aren't they saying it in plain English or plain Espanol? Why can't they put it in terms that we all already understand? And as you progress with the jargon, it starts to make sense. And then you go, oh, it's quicker, it's more efficient, it gets things done. So, my friends, our jargon term for today is joint attention. Now, we're not talking about making sure that you put a hot pad on your knees because you have arthritis, right? That's not the kind of joint attention we're talking about. This is something that's very specific that can be very helpful to us. So let's take a look at our actual definition for joint attention. Joint attention, the process by which one alerts another to a stimulus via nonverbal means, such as gazing or pointing, okay? Not the most horrible of definitions, but I still don't know, what does this have to do with my kid and how can this be helpful to me? So let's move on to our working definition here. Working definition of joint attention: the ability to share attention with another person toward an object, person, or event. Okay, so I always like to make a triangle for joint attention. This is my universal symbol for joint attention. This, to me, when I'm out and about, is one of the most fascinating things, that when I'm watching other kids and comparing what my son was like at a certain age and what these kids are like, it's just fascinating to me. So, for instance, I could be at Disneyland and you get an opportunity to people watch, right? And you see a little 2-year-old, and one day in particular, I saw this little girl who was looking at something with her mom. And they were standing in line for something, and there's always stuff going by at Disneyland. And the little girl saw one of the costume characters going by, and she looked at the character, and it was exciting to her. So what did she do? She immediately turned, looked up at her mom, and pulled on her arm, and then looked back at the character. Now, mom turns and looks at the little girl and sees there's something going on, right? And then she turns to follow the little girl's gaze. Now, both of them, so they're the 2 points here, both of them are looking at the costume character, enjoying that, and then what happens? This magical, magical thing. They look back at each other for this moment of checking in. So we've created a triangle of attention there. Now, it's one of those small, little, subtle moments that it's so easy to miss the miracle of that moment. And as a parent, I didn't notice that my son wasn't doing that. I totally didn't notice it, because if somebody doesn't alert you to it, you will miss it. But that moment is the beginning building block for so many things to come later on. And if we were to put it under a heading, we would say all of the social skills that we want for our kids to have start in that moment. because there is so much communication that's passing in that moment. Yeah, it's not verbal, and a lot of times we're focused on, well, what's the verbal thing that we want to get our kid to? We want them to speak and all of these different things, but we also want that social component, right? And a lot of social interaction is nonverbal, and it starts with this moment. If you think about it and dissect it, what happens in that moment, the little girl's looking at the costume character and goes, that's really cool. I want to see if mom sees what's happening with it. And then they look at mom. Mom has this moment that she sees something's going on with my little girl, and the little girl looks back at the character. Mom looks at the character and goes, oh, it's the costume character. And then they turn back to each other to enjoy it together. Now, something that happens, and our therapists and our psychologists tell us that early on, our kids don't know how to react to something, and how they gauge how to react to it is off of us. So they're not born with a fear of a dog who's snarling at them, right? But because they're checking in on joint attention and they see the dog and they're just like, oh, it's a dog. And then they look at mom, mom looks at the dog, they look back at each other, and mom is frightened. They start to recognize that frightened face, and then they know, I need to be afraid of that thing. So if you think about it, it starts to build an awareness of the world around them and what is something to have a good reaction to, what is something that to potentially have a negative reaction to. There are all these lessons that come with it, but it is also part and parcel of that desire to check in with somebody. It's another connection, and we want to create thousands and thousands and thousands of connections that are rewarding to them, because in this moment, in this neurotypical moment where the little girl and the mom look and they enjoy this moment and look back, there's something about it that's warm, and it's happy, and it's connected, and it's very rewarding. So the little girl is going to do more of that right up until she's a teenager, right? And then she's not going to want to do that anymore. But for a lot of years, this becomes a pipeline of learning. And if we cut that off and it doesn't happen, where does it leave our kids? So joint attention, a really crucial building block. And by the way, if we're not seeing it, guess what we can do? We can teach it. There are very specific ways that we can teach joint attention to a child, and if we do it when they're very young, then they don't miss that milestone. If we have to wait and teach it to someone when they're 5, we can. It will take longer, and then we have to go and pick up all the pieces of all the things that they didn't get because they didn't get the joint attention. Can we teach it to a 12-year-old? Yes, we can, but it takes that much longer to teach it to them, and that much longer to try to catch them up on all the things they missed. So when is a good day to start teaching joint attention and making it one of the most rewarding things for an individual to participate in? Now, right this minute. There is no age limit of when you can start working on joint attention. People do this with itty bitty little babies, and it can be as simple as having the little toy, the little rattle or whatever, rattling it in the baby's face and kind of, making it tickle them a little bit and pulling it back and having them look at you and then look at the thing and then look back at them and, oh, look, and getting them to look at it. So it's got to be something that's reinforcing to them, and make sure that you reward it so that we build those skills. Joint attention, it's a fabulous, fabulous thing. Okay, moving on. We always have a question of the day for you. And today, our question of the day, I can't get at it because I am messing up my iPad. You're going to have to wait for me. Why doesn't it want to do it for me? There we go. Now we're back. Our question of the day for you is, what social skills do you want to work on? We're going to be talking about social skills a lot this week. In a little while, a little later on in the show, after we recap the Walk for Autism, we're going to be talking about social skills. This is an area where I don't know a single person on the autism spectrum who isn't concerned with social skills. I don't know a single individual who has a student in their class or a therapist that is working with an individual with autism, or a parent who has a child who's on the autism spectrum who who doesn't want to improve social skills. Now, what they want to improve, it's a huge gamut, right? A huge spectrum, if you will, of skills. So what is it that you want to work on? Let's take a look. And you know why it's so helpful for you to say it? Because when you name something, you can claim it and you can start working on it. But also you have to consider that there are a whole lot of people who are watching who are new to this and are saying, okay, well, social skills, I want my child to have friends, but I don't even know what skills that takes. So when you guys list the things that you want to be working on, it helps other people who are reading on Facebook to go, wow, I never thought about it, but that's probably something that I could work on with my child as well. You will change the world by stating what you want to work on in your individual case. So let's do that. Make sure that you write in on our Facebook and let us know, what do you want to work on for social skills? Now, we always have a topic for the week. I've already given it away. At this point, I usually do. I wonder if we should put the topic of the week first, because I've given it away by now. But we're talking this week about building social skills, how important it is. It isn't something to be poo-pooed. For all of the friends that I have that are adults on the autism spectrum, they frequently will express frustration with the fact that those of us in the neurotypical world don't have any idea how often they are discriminated against because they have issues with social skills, how much help and support that they need, and the desire to be able to not necessarily change to fit the social rules of the neurotypical world, but to be able to navigate it so that they aren't discriminated against. And I think that's a really great way of looking at it. So we're going to be talking about where the social skills fall, how we can work on them, what we can do to strengthen areas that we want to strengthen, and get around weak areas when we need to. So all of that happening today. Some of the different things that we have on our agenda today. We're going to do the recap for the Los Angeles Walk. I can't wait to tell you about the amazing day that we had on Saturday at the Rose Bowl. It was really fun. We're going to update you with as much autism news as we can. Some of it we're waiting until tomorrow. There's some huge news in the autism community, but part of it I want to talk about with Nancy when she's here, Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson, for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. But a little bit later in the second hour today, we have Dr. Linda Copeland is going to be joining us. Some great questions came in. We don't have her for as long as we normally have, and so I had to pick and choose, but I think I got a little bit of everything that you guys sent, and I can't wait to hear her answers to some of these questions. If you've not joined us before for Dr. Linda Copeland, I want to remind you that she is a developmental pediatrician and a board-certified behavior analyst. Oh yeah, you heard me right. I was not kidding. She's both of those things. I call her the unicorn because it's like, what? Does that really exist? Somebody who's a developmental pediatrician and a board-certified behavior analyst? Like, she gets all the medical side of things, but she understands things from a behavioral point of view? Oh yeah, it's that good. So, and she joins us one Tuesday a month. It's today, my friends. She's gonna be here and she's gonna answer some questions. So I have picked some questions for her. We may have time for one or two more if you guys want to be sending them in on the live feature. Can't guarantee that, but if you send anything in and we don't get to it, we usually bank it up and either talk about it with Dr. Copeland, or if they're biomedical questions, sometimes now we give them to our good friend Lisa Ackerman, who is doing a monthly show with us called Talking with Taka. And I believe that we thought we were showing the segment that she did last Thursday live. We decided not to because of some of the constraints with the news studio. I believe we're going to be showing that this Thursday at 12:30, but I don't know that for sure. I'll check back with you on that. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Los Angeles Walk Now for Autism, and I have some visual aids for you and maybe a craft that you guys want to try that we tried at the event in the resource fair, and we had such a good time, you guys. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
It's every parent's desire for their child to have a great start in life. Yet there is a condition affecting more children's lives than pediatric cancer, diabetes, and AIDS combined. Autism strikes 1 in every 150 children.
Today, 1 in 110 kids in the U.S. will be diagnosed with autism. That is a huge jump from 30 years ago when it was 1 in 30,000.
Startling new report finds the number of children with autism is skyrocketing. The Centers for Disease Control estimates 1 in 68 children has a form of autism. Now that's a 30% increase in just 2 years.
with and all the accomplishments over the last 20 years. I'm thrilled.
I think what kept me was the feeling that, you know, I would have a parent come to my office late at night at UCLA and just fall apart. And this is a long time ago. There were much less back then in terms of services and knowledge and so on. And I would just sit with the family and the parents and walk them through and try to take away some of their fears, you know. And at that point I realized, I think the thing that's actually most important to me is that process. I mean, thank God that I've been very, very lucky and blessed to have so many incredible clinicians join me along the way and just develop CARD in such an amazing, magnificent way. That I could, you know, for me it was more really about how can I help the families? What can I do for the moms, the dads, you know? It is just, and I feel like, you know, there's no way I would ever really know because I haven't had my own child go through this, but I've experienced it with people a lot of times.
Hi, this is Megan. I'm in first grade all by myself. My teachers are so fabulous. I like to read books. I like to go to my friends' birthday parties. I like to invite my friends to my birthday parties. I once had a sleepover with a friend. I like to have play dates with my friend. I'm the best reader in my class. I like to go to the library. I like to read different series of books. And here's how I learned to do all these things. By my card friends and Dr. Grant Pichet. Thank you, card friends and Dr. Grant Pichet.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about recapping the Los Angeles Walk Now for Autism. We went on Saturday to the Rose Bowl. I said to you on Thursday, I really honestly believe that it is the biggest event in the world where parents come together and families come together to raise autism awareness and raise money for autism. This particular event is put on by Autism Speaks. The walk is, I think the actual walk itself might be more than 10 years old, but it wasn't always done by Autism Speaks. It's an amazing event. An amazing, amazing event, huge. There, well over 55,000 people were there to see almost every family that comes. It's a big deal now to make T-shirts that are designed in a specific way that say their team name and they're all matching. So you look out over this sea of people and you see, you know, pockets of colors. It almost looks like the globe moving because, you know, see this sea of blue over here and then this sea of orange. You know, it looks like a map that's just, you know, kind of moving in different colors. And it has the hugest resource fair. I don't think you can do the whole resource fair in one day. It's that big. And each booth has individuals who are in some way affiliated with the autism community. Each booth has an activity for the kids to participate in. And the whole purpose of that is so that the kids are included and that it gives the people at the booth an opportunity to talk to whoever has brought the kids and talk about what services they provide, what they do, to share information. So it's a very fascinating social day. And of course there's bands that play, there are singers that play. It's really kind of amazing. Each year we try to figure out, you know, what craft are we going to do, what activity are we going to do. So you know we love crafts here. So this is an example. This is one of the many canvases that we had individuals painting at the walk. What we did was we took these canvases, and we really want to thank Aaron Brothers in Santa Clarita because they gave us a wonderful discount on the canvases and the paint. My husband did all the taping off. What a wonderful person my husband is. I don't know if you can see all this blue that's in between the areas is tape. very specific tape that has something called edge lock on it. So you tape it down, and we were very careful to, right before anybody would paint, we would just sort of push down on it to make sure that the edges were down. And then each person who walked up had the ability to pick between a wide range of colors and to pick one of the different shapes to paint. Now, this is an easy craft that you guys can do at home, and what's nice about it is that there's no way to do it wrong. There's absolutely no way to do it wrong, because you can tape in any shape, and in fact, if you have kids who are working on shapes, you can ask them to make tape shapes on the canvas. They don't have to all be connected. We connected ours, but you could say to them, make a triangle, make a square, make a circle, and have them do the tape, and the circle will be challenging. Only give that to a child who's got enough finger skills to be able to do it. But you're working on finger skills, you can be working on shapes, and eventually you can be working on colors. You're working on a tripod grasp when they're doing the painting. We did the painting with foam sponges instead of bristle sponges because you just get a little bit more control over the paint. The kids had a great time. I just want to show you though that eventually what you do is you peel off the tape and it creates like a stained glass. So you see that I kind of love the messy, I gotta be honest with you, but there's something really pristine and wonderful once you take off the tape, and I wanna show you, this is one that kids just had a ball and painted. This is probably, between the two paintings, 100 different kids participating. And you know, what's fun about this, we've all had fun in the office and said, which way would you hang this? I loved the fact that this is done by individuals with autism and their family members. We had such a ball while we were doing this. So, but to be honest, because there were so many people, we didn't have enough canvases. We had enough paint. I don't know, somehow I managed to figure out how to have enough paint, but not enough canvases. And I was up really late the night before making t-shirts for our whole team that were white t-shirts, some very inexpensive white t-shirts. And I got the little iron-on things so that I could iron onto them that it said Autism Live. And everybody, I was dressed in blue, but the rest of the team was dressed in white. Well, I had one really wonderful good friend who, well, actually, I had two fabulous good friends from college. This is how you know good friends. These are people who got up before the crack of dawn to come to the Rose Bowl to volunteer to help us at our booth to work with the autism community. But one friend in particular who's a wild and crazy woman and willing to do anything for a child. She had one child, and my friend's name is Therese McLaughlin. She had one child who was being very shy about painting on the canvas. And so, as only Therese could do, she said to the child, "Here, do you want to paint on my shirt?" And offered up her shirt and said, "This is a very special shirt. We don't paint on most shirts, but this is a very special shirt. Would you like to paint on me?" Well, it became a thing for the rest of the day, and before we knew it, we had children that were painting my friend Therese from head to toe. I think Kelby has a picture. There is Therese sitting on the ground and letting children paint her. The close-up of nothing was off the table. They painted her legs, they painted her pants, they painted her face. She had an absolute ball, and the kids had an absolute ball. Before it was over, my son got into the act and was letting total strangers paint him as well. The two of them together had so much fun, but it's nothing compared to the amount of fun that the kids had at the walk. Eventually, there were teams of people who were coming up who had their t-shirts on and said, "Hey, can we paint each other too?" There were whole teams that were painting each other. It was wild and crazy. You can see there were people gathered around our table. It was a lovely, lovely craft. What was interesting to me about it was that I had done this a little bit at home. I had not been really successful, I will be honest with you, because I didn't get the tape that had the edge lock. So it kind of seeped underneath, and I was unhappy with the result because it didn't have the clear lines. So I wasn't sure how well this was going to go. But what was fascinating to me was all the kids wanted to paint, whether it was that they wanted to paint on the canvases or they wanted to paint on people. They all wanted to paint, and the adults wanted to paint too. And the fact that we had kids and adults painting side by side with each other, it was really super duper fun. So for us, we had the most tremendous day, but I want to tell you that that was 1/1,000,000th of what was happening at the fair. Each booth was having a party in their booth, having so much excitement. The kids were participating in all the different crafts. That people were dancing because the music was so incredible. It was a lovely, lovely day. We did some wonderful interviews. Kelby is working on a piece that we're going to debut for you on Thursday. Most notably, we got a wonderful opportunity to talk with Max Burkholder. You know Max. He played Max on Parenthood. What a lovely, wonderful, intelligent, well-spoken young man who really, for so young, but took so much time to appropriately portray being an individual on the autism spectrum on national television. We owe a great debt of gratitude to Max Burkholder. So we talked to him, we talked to Matt Asner. We also talked to the team captain for Team Green Bean, who raised over $700,000 for the event that day. So wonderful, wonderful day. I understand that they raised over 1.2 million across the entire day, but that is nothing compared to the awareness and the joy and the hope that was raised. You can't walk away from an event like that and feel like, oh, we're in this alone. You just can't. I thought it was amazing how many members of the community that were there. There were several people that I met that my heart went out to, parents who are struggling and finding their way. There was one woman in particular who I think about, though, because she asked me a bunch of questions. We had a great conversation. She had a bunch of kids with her. And I said to her finally, after we talked and she'd asked a bunch of questions, I said, "Are you a parent of a child on the spectrum?" And she said, "No, but we come every year to support because," and she had a t-shirt that said, she goes, "I remember when this was 1 in 25 and it isn't anymore. And it's so important that those of us who don't have kids on the spectrum support those of you who do." And I just hugged her. I went, could you step over to that booth where they're cloning people? Because we need more of you. What a wonderful, wonderful day. We want to thank Autism Speaks for allowing us to be a part of it, and we want to thank all of you that were there. It was just luscious, and I most particularly want to thank Kelby and my son and my two very good friends, Christine Stump and Therese McLaughlin, for being there and making it such a special day for us at Autism Live. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be back with more Autism Live after these messages.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The Skills Assessment and Curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes Skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The Skills Assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the Skills Assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills Language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. So excited to be here with you today and talking about social skills. This is an area, as we were saying earlier, it's important to all of us. You know, there are certain parts of the autism community that, everybody's different, right? And so some people are interested in motor skills, and some people are interested in academic skills, and some people are, interested in play skills, and some people are saying, I don't need play skills. My son is 21 years old. We don't need to work on play skills. But the one thing that I know for sure that everybody wants to work on is social skills. It's a particular area of deficit that covers all the different areas of an autism spectrum disorder. So I have up right now for you the little pyramid of all the different curricula areas that are in skills. Just to give you an idea of all the different areas that you might be working on. You see that we've got social, motor, language, adaptive, play, executive functions, cognition, and academic there. And in the coming weeks, we're going to take a couple of minutes from time to time to focus on a particular area and say, here's why. Here are the different areas of skills. Because I know that when I first read through skills and I went, oh my gosh, there are all these things that I wouldn't have thought of, all the different building blocks that get someone to the point of success, all the little minute skills that it takes to be successful in a given area. Well, I can't think of any area that's more true of than social skills. Boy, it's overwhelming, all the different things there are to think of to be successful with social skills. So that's what we're focusing on today, is the social skills curriculum. And if we start right now on this very next slide here, and we get this wonderful cloud where we've got social skills in the middle, and there are several different domains within the social skills, and we're going to break these down for you in a second, but I want to go through them. So if we start at the top there, non-vocal social behavior. We spend so much time as parents and practitioners and teachers on, what is the verbal part of the social communication, because that's complicated, right? But we cannot leave out the non-verbal social communication. When you think about how much stuff happens, I love when you take a man and a woman to a social event, like a party, or you go to a restaurant and there's many different couples there, and then if you listen in on the conversation afterwards and you hear the woman saying to the man, oh, did you notice that, Betty is mad at Bill? And a lot of times the guy will go, what, did I miss that? What happened? Was there a fight at the table? No, did you not see that look that he gave him? Women tend to, it's a generalization, but it tends to be statistically true that women pick up on more of the non-vocal behavior that happens, but we also read more into it, right? And I would say, yeah, I saw the look, but I'm not sure that what you saw was what you think it is in your head, right? But if you were to pare down and think of all the little interactions that happen at an adult dinner table and think, what if we were blind to all of those? How much of a disability would that be? I have friends who do not have sight, and they talk about having to listen for things, and the shuffling of things and the sigh that somebody gives, right, that are all also non-vocal, that they have to listen for them, but how difficult it is sometimes to navigate when you don't have the sight to see them. Well, for our boys in particular who are on the autism spectrum, this is a big area of deficit, which is not to say that it's not a big area of deficit for the girls as well, but we know that there are so many more boys on the spectrum than girls. So not leaving that out, right? If we were to leave out the non-vocal social behavior, it's like leaving out a whole separate language that is imperative for them to learn. Then, of course, there's the flip side of it, which is another huge area, which is social language. How often are you someplace where you see somebody, whether they're on the spectrum or not, who just doesn't get it in a wide variety of ways? They don't understand what's appropriate, what tone is appropriate. We'll go into in depth in a moment all the different areas in social language because it is huge area. Then we have social interaction, which is going to make it possible to have friends and to have relationships that are romantic relationships. How about self-esteem? At least once a week we have somebody write in and say, you know, I don't think that my self-esteem is correct. I want to work on my self-esteem because I want to help my child to have better self-esteem. How do you work on self-esteem? There are specific lessons in skills to help you build self-esteem. And by the way, you don't have to be younger than the age of 8 to benefit from these lessons. These lessons are things that are skills that start to emerge. That's the important phrase here. Start to emerge before 9 years of age in a neurotypical individual. But start to emerge and get to full fruition and mastery are two vastly different things. For all of us, there are things that we can work on in this curriculum and get better at social interaction. What about social context? We talked a little bit about understanding, oh, I'm in a bank. I'm not yelling in the bank, right? Social rules, huge, big area of concern. Group-related events, which really helps as early as preschool, and then absurdities. And you might think, wait a second, I get all of these things here, but absurdities, but if you don't understand the absurd in things, then you don't know how to take a joke, you don't know how to tell a joke, you don't know how to participate when somebody is being sarcastic, right? That's a huge area of social concern. All right, so let's start to break this down for you. Let's start with the non-vocal social behavior. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this is because too often we assume, you might walk into the conversation at any point and go, oh, well, social skills. You know, they're working with my 3-year-old on eye contact. And that you may not realize is a social skill, but it is. But once you do realize it, you go, oh, eye contact is a social skill. We work on that with very young kids, which means that we work on social skills with very young kids. But you would miss out on the fact that we can work on this with an 89-year-old, right? For that matter, a 112-year-old, right? Okay, so here are some of the different things, in particular, some of the lessons, because how important is eye contact? There are so many things that you miss out on if you're not making eye contact. And not the least of which is the other person's perception of how you feel about them. There have been lots of studies done about people saying, you know, do you think that the person liked you? Well, no, because they didn't even look at me. Makes it hard to make friends and keep friends if you can't make a certain amount of eye contact. But think about all the other information that is lost if you're not checking in with another person's eyes. I love the study that they did where they showed a bunch of people shots of sports figures that were engaged in different, like still shots of them engaged in a behavior, maybe, you know, doing a backhand for tennis. And they asked, you know, how is the person feeling right now? And people would say, oh, they're feeling triumphant. They're feeling fierce. They're feeling all these different things. And then they took a black bar and put it over the person's eyes. And these were all neurotypical people that they were asking. Now, you're not looking at the eyes, look at the picture and determine what this person is feeling just from their body, leaving out the eyes. And the answers were completely different than what people had said when they had the ability to see what the eyes were saying. The eyes are supposedly the window of the soul, and if you're not checking in with them, and if it's not reinforcing for you to look at the eyes, you will miss important information. Non-vocal imitation, when you think about how do we teach somebody to do something, a lot of times being able to demonstrate it and have the other person be able to do it, it's a huge, huge way in which to teach something, a huge way in which to learn. But if you don't know how to do it and you don't find it reinforcing, it will make the learning process so much slower. Body language and facial expressions. As we go through these, I'm thinking about when my son was learning these and how much fun it was to see him gain information and understand. We've had so many experts over the years come on and talk about different ways that they teach social skills. One of my favorite one is a young man who's on the autism spectrum, and he told the story about the first time that he learned to read all the different ways that someone could show that they were into your conversation or bored. And that one of the quickest things he learned was look down at their shoes. Are their shoes pointing towards you or are they pointed away? If they're pointed towards you, it's a good indication that they're listening and attuned to what you're saying. But if their shoes are pointed away, you need to change your conversation in order to keep them engaged. What a brilliant, I don't know that that would have ever occurred to me. We sometimes pick up on these things subtly and don't even notice, but if you don't notice them, there are guidelines that you can be taught so that you can learn them. And then, of course, gestures to regulate social interaction, that when we say to somebody, you know, we hold up a finger and go, shh, or we say sit down or come here, right? Or I'm looking at you. I went to on a field trip on Friday with my son and his class to the Getty Villa, a wonderful, wonderful museum. If you're in Los Angeles, you must check it out. It's really quite amazing. And when you're in a museum with a group of kids, there's a lot of gestures to regulate social interaction that we were saying, you know, to people, you know, separate, you know, move over there, sit down, right? But for our kids on the autism spectrum, we might as well, you know, be voguing. They don't know what this is. They need to be taught so that they understand and that they have the ability to make the gestures to say to somebody, you know, no, I'm not doing that. Yes, I am doing that, right? Amazing array of lessons. Moving on to that social language. Look at all the things that are listed here. It's way too many things to go into in depth in this kind of a conversation. But when you think about what it takes for you as an adult to go on a job interview, to go to a party, to be on a date, to be able to get into an elevator with somebody and to be able to hold your end of a conversation. How many thousands of things does it take for you to be able to negotiate all of those different things? And what would your life be like if you weren't able to negotiate them? This is what this list prepares you for. Everything from kindergarten up through the job interview or going on that 17th date with somebody. You need to know your own personal information. Think about the 2-year-old that they say, what's your name? Where do you live? How old are you? All of those different things. What's your mom's name? What's your phone number? This continues into adult years to knowing what your cell phone number is, what your email address is, what your password is. Hi, it's a lot to remember, right? How about greetings and salutations, saying hello to somebody, saying goodbye, being polite in all of those circumstances? I think what you'll find is that individuals who are on the autism spectrum are polite to a degree that is almost 1954, and I personally love it. I think it's wonderful. Prosody, which is the ability to modulate your voice for meaning. We've all made fun of Ben Stein, who's, you know, sat there and said, Bueller, but have you ever been talking to somebody when they say, I really like your shirt? I remember saying to a student once who said, this class was so great. And I said, are you being sarcastic? Are you being, like, do you mean that? And she's like, what are you talking about? This was phenomenal. And I could not tell from her voice that she meant it wholeheartedly. I just could not. So prosody, if you're saying to someone, please get out of the building now, there's a fire, right? Will your meaning be taken as there is an emergency? We teach kids to be able to modulate their voices for meaning and for interest. General knowledge. If you don't know what's going on in the world and you go to a party and everybody's talking about, oh, did you see that baseball game last night? And you have no idea how difficult it is. There's a certain amount of general knowledge that we need to front load our kids with so that they can have conversations with other kids. How to start a conversation, how to end a conversation. Honestly, really, I'm still working on that lesson and skills for myself. I don't know how to end a conversation. Repairing a conversation when things have gone off the rails, knowing what can you do to get to the point where you get meaning and attention back. Listening to conversation, physical context of conversation. Understanding your conversational audience. This is such an important one for our kids on the autism spectrum because it involves a bit of perspective taking, which, yeah, that's probably in another curriculum too, but it's, in this context, it's social interaction, so that when your child goes up to another child, say your child is 5 and they go up to another child and they start talking about Pokemon, right? They get it. And they're having it, and they can talk in a shorthand and they can have this conversation, but grandma comes to visit and the child, says, well, Pikachu says this. Grandma has no context of who Pikachu is. Is Pikachu, a type of apple? Or is Pikachu a character on a show that you like? Who is this Pikachu of which you speak, right? Understanding how you have to give more information to somebody if they reasonably don't know what you're talking about. That's conversational audience. Transitioning topics of conversation so we don't just get stuck on one thing and perseverate on it. That, okay, you were talking about video games, somebody else brought up going to the swimming pool, and you continue to talk about video games, but they were transitioning to the swimming pool conversation. Now we need to repair the conversation. Maintaining conversation, having that back and forth, go back and forth, joining a conversation. Walking up to a group of people and knowing how to judge when and how to modulate your voice, turn your body, send the signal that I want to join the conversation. Amazing. Adults can benefit from this, but so can small kids. And then, of course, conversation, putting it all together. For those of you who have, I know you've written into me and you have 16, 17-year-olds older that they have been manding, they've been labeling things, but you haven't got to conversation. Don't just look at the language curriculum, look at the social skills curriculum and put these things into your program so that you can get to that all-important conversation. Okay, I'm taking up a lot of time here. I got to move it on a little bit. Social interaction. We talked about joint attention already today, how this is the core building block of everything that you eventually get to with social interaction. Being able to teach someone that when they look at something that they can non-verbally turn to you, look at you, then you can both enjoy it together and have this connection back and forth. Look at that giraffe. Aren't you enjoying that giraffe? I'm loving that giraffe. Did you see that? Oh my goodness, that's something that's scary. I'm afraid. We're enjoying this together. Not necessarily enjoying, but experiencing it together. Joint attention, so important. What about gaining attention? Respectfully asking for someone's attention so that you're not doing it in a way that is obtrusive or rude or harming anybody. Social referencing, assertiveness, sharing and turn-taking, compliments, introductions, apologizing, cooperation, and negotiation. For some of our older kids, that's huge. Levels of friendship. This is one that's really super important. Understanding that, I just met this person, so they're not somebody that I give my home phone number to, or I just met this person, so I don't give them my password. This person just hit me, so they're not really a good friend. Really important lessons. Regulating others, whether it's appropriate. This is something we're working on this week with my son, that he likes to be a little bit of a know-it-all. I can't imagine where he got that from. But, telling other people, well, you shouldn't be standing there. And he used to do this a lot when he was little, and now he's doing it again, and I have to say to him, hey, what authority do you have in this circumstance? And then he goes, right, no, I need to mind my own business. How about lending and borrowing? When it's appropriate to lend something, when it's appropriate to borrow something, all important in social interaction. Okay, we talked a little bit before about self-esteem. some of the cores of dealing with self-esteem, and there are very specific lessons about this in skills, dealing with conflict, how you persevere, how to not run away from conflict, how to stay calm, how to center yourself so that you can deal with conflict. Boy, don't you know some adults who could benefit from that? Positive self-statements, so that we always have that, I call it the yabba yabba, the voice in the back of our heads that's saying things to us, and that I'll do something and I'll go, oh, I can't believe I just said that. Oh, I can't believe that that's the example that I picked, right? But teaching somebody how to say good things about, hey, I just did a good job with that, how important that is to self-esteem. Learning how to be a good winner and learning how to withstand it when somebody else is a winner and not necessarily a good winner, learning how to be a good loser, and learning how to be a kind person when somebody else has lost, how to take and receive constructive criticism, and understanding exactly what constructive criticism is, so that if you're getting something that isn't constructive criticism, bump up to the top, which is dealing with conflict, right? Wouldn't you like to be better at these things? Well, they're available in skills. You can work on the lessons yourself while you're working on them with your kids. Social context, understanding basic social cues. So, and some of these overlap, but understanding that if the principal walks into the classroom, that everybody needs to sit and listen quietly. Different teachers have different things. Like I know some teachers hold up 2 fingers and that means be quiet. Others have something that they say, but if you think about that, that's just one classroom. Think about all the different places in your life where you get a basic social cue. Sometimes you miss the social cue, right? Then it's important to learn through observation that you walked into the building, you're just chatting with your friend, and you get a little message in your brain that, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Oh, everyone else is being quiet. Oh, I need to be quiet too. Right in that moment, you learn through observation. You didn't see a sign that said, that was a basic social cue, please be quiet here. You watched everybody else and you learned from them. How useful is this to our kids with autism that sometimes space out for a minute, so that when the teacher says, all right, everyone, open up your math textbook to page 74, and your kid missed that because they were away somewhere for a moment dealing with some sort of sensory issue, but they come back and instead of staying spaced out, they notice everybody else is taking out their books. Oh, okay, I'll take my book out too. What page are they on? So that we don't get further behind. Learning through observation is huge, huge life skill. And then more complex social cues. This is that thing that I was talking about when, the woman says, oh, did you not see that Betty and Bill were having a fight? That's more complex stuff. And believe me, with texting and Facebook and all of those things and dating, it gets complex. Don't we all know that? Okay, social rules. The huge one at the top there, compliance. But you know what? Compliance is a two-edged sword, because we want our kids to have compliance when there's a fire drill, right? We want our kids to have compliance to be able to sit in their desk and be able to do their work. But we do not want our kids to have compliance when the stranger walks up to them and says, hey, I've got some candy. Do you want to come to my car, right? Oh my gosh, that's much more complicated thing. But compliance, I always say, is the best of times is the worst of times. If you've got it, you can teach. And when you can teach, man, the possibilities are infinite. When you do not have compliance, good luck teaching anything. It's not going to happen. We start with compliance on good compliance training, the right kind of compliance training with babies. And so they're never too young to be working on compliance training. They're never too old to work on compliance training. Eventually, as they age a little bit, by the time they're 2, we start to work on following rules. We work on say-do correspondence, that, I say, we're going to eat lunch and then we're going to do this. We said this, then we did it. And teaching a child, a young child, you said you were going to clean your room before you did this, now you need to do it. That there is a correspondence between what you say and do, and that there should be. Teaches really good things. And of course, politeness and manners, we love that. And community rules, being able to recognize, oh, there's a sign there that says this is what we do. We follow the rules within the community. So we follow the rules within the room that we're in, if it's a classroom or a bank or any place. Say you go to the swimming pool and there are rules that are there, we must follow them. That can help with so much with flexibility and so many things. Group-related skills, when we get ready to send them off to some sort of a school setting, we want to work with our kids before they get there about responding in unison. It's, you know, it's amazing to me whenever I go to a school and the kids who are neurotypical get this almost immediately, and our kids with autism, it takes a lot longer than that. But you can sit there in the room, and I just went and spoke in a school a couple of weeks ago, and you know, you say, "Good morning, boys and girls," and the kids all go, "Good morning," you know, together, except for our kids who like a second later maybe say it or don't participate at all. Super duper important that we help them to respond in unison. It's an early academic skill. It's just one of those things that helps them to negotiate the social experience, and then teaching them how to participate in a group discussion, and one builds on the other, and the group discussion continues through life. Everything that they do, at some point, they will be part of a group discussion. And then we get to absurdities. Having our kids notice, I love this set of lessons because we show videos and we show pictures and say, oh, you know, here are all these things. What's wrong? What's wrong with this picture? Who isn't doing the right thing? And sometimes it's a politeness issue, and sometimes it's a manners issue. Sometimes it's a social rule. Sometimes it's a community rule, right? Who isn't, what, you know, what's wrong with this picture? Maybe it's a safety thing that the guy, we've got a picture of a guy who's walking down the street and he's about to step on a banana peel that somebody just dropped. And so we say, you know, what's wrong? And the child gets to language it for us. How about figures of speech? Oh my gosh, my son is in 6th grade and they're working on so many different things. And he's learning literary terms, and some of them we're talking about idioms and figurative speech and connotative speech, and he has a basis for all of those because we worked on figures of speech. But he also, the wonderful study that they did here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, and they showed how efficient they can be at teaching our kids not only to understand figures of speech, but to make them up and to use them. I will never forget being at the community garden with my son after having gone through this training, and we'd had a full day where we'd gone to school, we ran some errands, we went to the community garden. It was like 4:45, and I said, boy, I am so ready to go home. And he said, I want to relax like a fat man on a bed. And I busted out laughing. I said, where did you hear that? He goes, what do you mean? I just made it up. But you know, it was awesome because he learned how to use figurative speech and to make a figure of speech. And then, of course, that all leads to humor and jokes. I'm so sorry if we can't laugh about things. Where are we? And our kids on the autism spectrum have a great sense of humor. And when we teach them about humor and jokes, there's no end to what they can do and what they can understand. And that is an amazing round of self-awareness when we can get to humor and jokes. I don't want you to be cheated out of that. You can get all of these lessons in the social skills arena. You can work on these beginning with somebody who's as young as 12 months old, and you can continue working on specific areas of deficits forever. My friends, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Use the social skills curriculum in skills. You can find it at www.skillsforautism.com. We are going to take a break now and go to the A Word. This is an amazing ongoing documentary being made by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. We see Jack interacting with his therapist and with his parents and with people in his community. And I would mention to you that they are using the skills program with Jack, with all of his therapists. And you do see them working on a lot of these lessons throughout the A Word series. So take a look. This is the A Word.
Hi, Jack Riley. Are you in the pool? Say hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Suzanne.
He said that twice. We're just getting the camera.
Hi, Suzanne.
Everything is good. We just actually increased our hours. So that's a little overwhelming. It includes pretty much therapy from 8:30 till about
6 p.m.
6 o'clock minus his nap time. So that's challenging, but he's doing great. 6 months ago he had 0 words. Now I don't think I can count that high. He's got so many words.
And the 25 hours, is that strictly ABA or is that ABA plus?
That's ABA plus 2 hours of speech therapy per week plus 2 hours of OT per week.
So it's almost 30 hours, 29 hours.
He works almost more than we do.
So let's say that's like as long as my work week.
Yeah, he's got a full-time job for
a 2-year-old.
A little 2-year-old with a full-time job.
Oh, a mouth. Where does the mouth go? Oh, nice job. So he has hands, eyes, nose, and a mouth. What else does he need? Does he need ears? Oh, there's one ear. What else does he need? Shoes. Where is his shoes? You gonna put feet? Okay. What else does he need? Oh, a hat. Which hat is he gonna put on? That one? Say hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Jack Riley.
We were diagnosed November of last year, so it's been 7 months since we've known that he has autism. He started speech therapy a month later, occupational therapy probably within a few weeks of that, and then ABA we've done for 3 months, April, May, and June.
Right.
And really, I think ABA, I don't want to compare it to the others, but I mean, we've seen a huge impact on him. And
But it's 20 some odd hours,
right.
compared to 2 and 4 or whatever. But yeah, he's changed dramatically since ABA started.
And it was hard in the beginning. We just even the biggest example I always come up with is they made him say his colors before he could use a marker to color, which was his thing at the time.
Do you want green or orange? Which one's orange? Green or orange? Orange, yeah. Good job.
So what's like the differences between before you started therapy and to what the kind of kid he is now?
I mean, I actually have not full days, but very large portions of partial days where I forget about autism and just think I have a 2-year-old. Specifically, he plays with us. He engages us. He's funny. He sort of makes jokes. I don't know how to explain that, but he does.
You got it.
The communication skills have increased dramatically, where we were impressed with how he could label everything under the sun
And mimic, and now he's actually asking for things. He's making requests. He wants help, and sometimes he'll say specifically, "Help open." That would have been unheard of a few months ago.
Open. Hope. What do you want?
I don't remember this fascination with learning quite so much as the last few months.
Right.
And everything that he knows, he's always looking at us like, did you catch that? That I knew that? Did you see that? That I knew that was coming?
Are you hip to this?
Well, now it's gone. He's got it. Look at you being Mr. Trying to figure things out there. I know. That's cute. And then now it's there. Now it's there. You see it? That's hilarious. Ooh. The boy. Oh. Really?
How do you differentiate or like try to figure out like what is the autism, what is his personality, what is
we don't understand at all, really, and I think really we won't understand fully unless we have a neurotypical child second. And I think as we go through stages, it'll bells will be ringing left and right. We'll be like, oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, actually, I still have trouble explaining it to friends or family when they ask, well, how do you know? I still have trouble explaining it. I know that we're right and that he's not misdiagnosed, but I still have trouble explaining it.
We look at each other all the time and say, is that 2 or is that autism? And I don't
Yeah,
know that we
that's
ever answer it.
Probably our most common question to each other. Is that autism or is that 2-year-old? I don't know.
And I have both is probably what we usually say.
Yeah.
It's a little of both.
Yeah.
Bubby.
What? Baby.
Bubby.
Baby.
Bubby.
Mommy or baby? I don't know.
Bubby.
Mommy, baby. Mommy,
Baba.
baby, baby.
Baba. Baby.
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 Is he a baby too?
Baby.
Baby.
How does that affect everything now that you're pregnant, waiting for sister? Were you nervous when you first found out you guys were pregnant?
Well, yeah, we thought about it. I thought I would be more nervous about it all, but as I told a woman within probably less than a week of getting Jack's diagnosis, because we were already thinking about having another baby at that time, and asked her very honestly, are we crazy? Is this just a bad time to bring in another? Is this not fair to our son? Do we need to focus on him? And she led me through a few questions, and the ultimate thing I said was, I'll take 5 more just like him. And I would, in a heartbeat. He's great. He's
Maybe not 5.
I'll take 5 more just like him.
Okay.
You're happy with just 2.
I'm happy with 2.
No, he's a happy kid. Hasn't made him any less of a treat to watch him grow up and to watch him learn. He still is doing all those things. He might be doing them on a different timetable, but we haven't missed out.
But we don't
on
know the
anything.
timetable anyway, so we're good. We're golden.
Ignorance is bliss.
He's great. He's great, and now we feel like we're on the right track. So I don't care what his timetable is. He's learning daily.
But I think that's the impression, as a parent for sure. Before you experience autism, you think of it as sort of, that everything's different.
Yeah.
And it is, but in a way it's not at all, They're still kids, and they're still fun, and
I could still see him being like king of the prom.
sure.
He's a looker, good looking guy.
He's charmed all his therapists.
And his cinematographer. and his mom and dad. We're going to the pool. We're going to the pool. We're gonna put our swimming suits on and we're going swimming. We're going to the pool. Yay! We're going to the pool.
Are we there yet?
Are we there yet?
My excitement's getting stronger.
We're going to the pool. We're going to the pool.
I love to watch this family. They're incredible people, and to watch the growth of this little boy and to see how he is progressing on the series. You can watch the series in whichever way suits you, and I love that too, that you can go back to the beginning, you can skip around, you can see a skill that he has now and say, wait a second, how did they get there, and go back and watch in the series and see how they work on gaining attention, how the first day that they started that. And you don't get to see the whole, day to day what they did, but I love that it shows you, so this is the first moment that they worked on it, and then this is this moment that we got to where he's starting to get it, and they show you just a picture representing all the days that they had to work on it to get to that moment, because it reminds you, oh, this just doesn't happen overnight, but it's possible. And I don't know about you, I love knowing it's possible. Yeah, sometimes it's a whole lot of hard work. I always think about the woman who, when at my very first IEP, and we were talking about what I wanted for Jem, and she said, well, I don't understand. What exactly is it that you want? And I said, I want him to go to kindergarten on time with his peers and be caught up. And she went, ugh, and rolled her eyes and said, well, that's going to be hard. And I was instantly just so mad. It was the first time that I identified myself as an autism parent. I just looked at her and I said, don't talk to me about hard. I'm an autism mom. I know all about hard. How about if you talk to me about what's possible? Because if it's what's possible, then we're going to chase that down. And she kind of was affronted, and and I was in her face, and they were saying, well, let's keep it calm here. And I thought, I got you calm here, right? Right. Let's talk about what's possible. So I love to see the work that's involved, but what's possible on the A word. I hope that you take it and use it in whatever way that it helps you, whether it's something that you show your mother-in-law and go, look, this is what we're doing. So, you know, step off when we say we're going to ignore this behavior. This is why. This is where they've been able to get with this little boy. We're following this path. We're using the same, you know, kinds of techniques that they are. This is what ABA looks like. This is what good ABA looks like. Look at this before you come and visit us, right? Or whether you use it to give you hope so that you come back to the table today and you are able to do what you need to do, or anything in between. It's a wonderful, wonderful gift that this family has given us to be able to look over their shoulders to see, you know, what this looks like, and probably equally as important, what it feels like, because this is not easy. Whew, not easy. To have people come into your home and to help you to do this is humbling in a way that I think, quite honestly, only those of us who have done it can appreciate. But I don't know a single person who has done this and put their whole heart and soul into it that wouldn't tell you, man, this was the most worthwhile thing I ever did. We just need to remind you while you're going through it, because it is tough with a capital T. Okay, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back, and I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to address, and then we're going to be joined a little bit later on by Dr. Linda Copeland. Don't forget, she's what I call the unicorn. She is a developmental pediatrician, but she is also a board-certified behavior analyst. She's going to be answering your questions live here on the show. Stick with us. Currently, in the United States, 1 in 88 children is affected by autism. 1 in 88 means something different when your child is the one. Recovery is possible. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, host of Autism Live, an online show about autism broadcast by CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm also the mother of a child with autism. My beautiful son, Jem. You know our old joke, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. So we're going to take the chickens. But things weren't always so easy. I remember when Jem was first diagnosed with autism. I used to lay awake at night in bed and pray for someone or something that could help us to get our child back. My prayers were answered by Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD treats autism and other related disorders using the principles of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It is also recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General. About a year after we started treatment with CARD, we were able to see tremendous improvement, and we got our child back.
What grade are you in?
Second.
You are a smart cookie, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like school?
Yeah.
Do you have any good friends?
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar is your best friend?
Yeah.
And my child is just one of thousands to benefit from CARD ABA therapy. Across the nation and around the world, children are making amazing progress and being given the keys to unlock their full potential.
Recovery from autism is absolutely a possibility. We've been recovering children for over 20 years. It's just a matter of identifying the child's medical needs, understanding the child's sensory issues, and then teaching the child all of the skills they need in order to function normally.
We know there's hope for autism. Autism is treatable and recovery from autism is possible. Welcome back to Autism Live. Wanted to take just a couple of minutes to answer. I love the questions you guys are sending, and I feel bad that we're not getting to all of them. I'm trying to work on that. And some of these questions I'm going to save for Dr. Graham-Pichet tomorrow, but a couple that were addressed just to me. Although I'm not an expert, but I'll give you my parents' opinion. How's that? Since you addressed it to me. Dear Shannon, do we still follow through for avoidance, in parentheses, non-compliance, if the child is too anxious to face the task? What if the SD is given already and then we find out it's a phobia? Oh, this happens, right? And they go on to say, my 14-year-old refused and exhibited his anxious avoidance behavior in the zone, covering ears. He was afraid to look at his grades, which he knew was poor for literature. Grades for each assignment and quiz were posted online, and I wanted him to get a visual and understand when he needs to ask for help. When we were done, he was going out for a fun activity with Dad, not realizing the intensity of his fear. I made the mistake of putting on a response cost. You have 1 minute to come or you can't go. Anyway, I just lost my place. She says, I ended up going to him to explain. He did relax after understanding the purpose was not to give him a hard time on grades, but rather to recognize the symptom, bad grades, and ask for help. Please give me a whack on the head. Well, if I gave you a whack on the head, I would have to equally whack myself on the head, and we need to be around. We need to be around and not have head whacks, right? Listen, here's what I want us all to remember as parents, is that there is no way that any one of us is ever going to get it 100% right 100% of the time. It's just not a possibility. It's not going to happen. And I know enough board certified behavior analysts who are amazing with our kids, who are honest enough to say, I blew it with my kid last night because this happened and I did this, and afterwards I went, I know better, right? So first of all, we have to start with forgiving ourselves. And my favorite Ileana Van Zandt thing to say is, I forgive myself for ever thinking that I did something wrong, right? Because you were in it. You were in it, and you're a parent, and you're in the moment. And you know what? The fact that we show up means that we won. Now, you do the best you can on any given day with what you have. And you forgive yourself for ever thinking that you could have done it perfectly. So, all right, let's start there. You forgive yourself. Nobody's whacking you on the head. Listen, if you think for a second that I can walk all of my talk here, I can't. There's no possible way that I can. Come to a grocery store with me. Better yet, come and stand at the end of my driveway, because still getting my son out of the car and into the house is something, and I frequently, instead of remembering, I have a set of skills and I can offer him a reward if he gets to the door before me, instead we'll go, why do we have to do this every day? Why can't you just get your back, which is of no use to anyone. And I'm sure the neighbors love hearing it, right? Not my best parenting moment. I always say to my husband, well, I'm not going to get Mother of the Year award this year either. Oh, well. And by the way, I'm not going to get Housekeeper of the Year award ever. But we have other things that we bring to the table, right? So you forgive yourself to start with. But now let's talk about what to do when you get in a moment where something comes out your mouth that has a consequence and you go, wish I hadn't done that. You kind of have to do some fast footwork, and you kind of have to reevaluate as quick as possible. If it's something that you have repeatedly said to your child, and by repeatedly I mean more than twice-ish, if this has happened before, you don't want to set up a pattern. Our therapists, and we can ask them about this, but mostly our therapists would probably say, nope, if it came out your mouth, you got to follow through with the consequence. I think we have to leave room for, sometimes we don't need to make a big deal out of something, but you have to gauge how big of a deal this is. So if you say to your child, you have 1 minute to come over here and look at this, or you don't get to go with your dad. Is there even a possibility that if you don't follow through on it, that the next time that you ask him to come someplace and there's a consequence, is there a possibility that your child won't? And if there's even a possibility, then yeah, you got to follow through on it. But there's always a little asterisk. You can put something else in there. You can add something to it to sweeten it. You can say, you need to come over here. Did you know that I have this wonderful thing in my hand that you really, really want? right? You can find something to add to it, and you can keep languaging. You have 1 minute to come over here, and by the way, nothing bad is going to happen when you get over there. You know, if your child has receptive language, you can be adding things into it. And if you can't get them to come over, then you have to get somebody else to help you or help yourself instead of going to him. And you know, you got to gauge it by how much the phobia is. Something you might have done is go over and, you know, physically soothe him and say, you know, together, we're going to go and look at this together because I want you to be able to go with Dad. I'm going to stay with you the whole time and nothing bad is going to happen. But we're going to go over together to look at it. And when you do, I'm going to be so proud of you that you looked at it, that not only are you going to get to go with Dad, but you're also going to get X, Y, and D so that you don't get into a pattern of, I said something, but I gave up on it. That's what you want to be aware of. But if you think that your kid isn't going to pick up on the one time in this special circumstance, I say, you know, move on. Things happen sometimes, and our kids will show us something, and we have to adjust. The other thing that I was taught by one therapist in particular is that you can always finish the moment out and say, well, you know, not a big deal. If you don't come over, then you don't get to go, and not bring anything else up, and just stop. Stop with the talking. You know, for some kids, this is what really works, and you get really quiet and say nothing. And if the child comes over and does it, great. If they don't, you pack things up and you act like nothing happened. But when it's time to go, you say, well, you didn't come over. And then they're going to have, you know, but. And then you can give them an opportunity to earn some of what it was they lost back. It's a dicey thing because you don't want to send the message of that there's always a scapegoat, but you don't want to lose the rest of the day. So what you can say is, well, you know, I feel really bad because I really wanted you to go with Dad and it's really fun. How about this? I still want you to come over and look at these grades, but let's find a better way to do it. And if you do, you'll get to go to Dad. You're not going to be able to get to go as long because we ran out of some time here. But if you'll come over and do this, then you can go with Dad. Then the child has another opportunity to earn it. You can sometimes switch it. If it's a huge phobia, you can switch out what it is to earn it for something else, but you got to be careful because you don't want to send that message of, you can always negotiate everything out of me. You know, it's just like in any other adult negotiation that you have with anyone who wants something strongly, you have to make sure that you keep your position, but don't lose everything. And we're never in the business of trying to make our kids frightened. And when you see that phobias, I think it's a good time to stretch your rules a little bit. That is just my parent opinion. I know many BCBAs who would not necessarily agree with me, but they're not with you and your child in every moment that you have to be. And sometimes when you have to, you know, there have been times when I have had to say, in this moment, the fear or whatever, or the safety overrides what we're doing. And I know, I am cognizant of the fact that it's going to take us 3 weeks to clean this moment up. But I'll take that over what's about to happen if I don't. You can do that. You're just aware of that. Okay, we'll clean this up. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes. I send you an air hug. It's okay. If I had a nickel for every time a consequence came out of my mouth that I went, oh, that's gonna hurt, I would be a very rich woman. And we could go to Tahiti for a weekend just for fun. Okay, and then another question, I think by the same person. My boy recently discovered a very sweet drink which has been used as a reinforcer. Just found out that he gets rashes afterwards. He has allergies, and there have been times that he snuck a few avoid items and paid for it later. Rashes, itch, asthma. Learning from your show, found another reinforcer, wigs, which feeds his haircut perseveration. Health-wise, it's better to let him cut the hair, but also concerned that he could be too perseverative. Would appreciate your thoughts and advice, and thank you. Okay, you know, I love when we have experts who are on the show and talk about perseverations and say, you know, it's a very fine line, right? And especially depending on the age of the person, because we know lots of people that are professionals, that are adults in their lives, that if they were kids, we would say, oh, well, they're perseverating on that. Oh, well, Einstein was perseverating on science. But when you're an adult and you have the ability to perseverate at something, we call you the top of your field. So it's important for us when our kids are younger to build in as much flexibility as we can to make them well-rounded people. But we don't want to prevent them from finding their passion and following it and finding that joyful either. So it's a very fine line, and the fact that you're constantly saying to yourself, I don't know where this line is, means you're doing it right. You know, you're going to feed the obsession as much as you can until you get to the point where they can't transition to anything else. Because, you know, we have the opportunity at different events to be with people who are at the top of their field. I'm thinking about Chaz Dean that does the Wen products, that he was one of the wonderful sponsors of Denim and Diamonds last year. And I'm gonna guess that there are people in Chaz Dean's life that are like, you know, you're thinking about hair way too much, dude. Well, he's thinking about it as he's going to the bank, right? But you know, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing, but there will be moments in his social life where probably Chaz Dean, you know, has people in his life say, okay, enough with the talking about hair. So if you can build it into your child's life that they have the ability to put the perseveration on and off, to me, that is the difference between being an expert in something and being disabled by your perseveration. So if you can, at this early age with your son, say, okay, you know, for the next hour, you get to deal with hair cutting and have a great time, but you know, I'm going to give you a 10-minute warning, I'm going to give you a 5-minute warning, I'm going to give you a 1-minute warning, and then we're going to turn off the hair cutting, and there's no more talking about hair cutting until it's time for the next time. And if you can do it, then I'm going to let you have the hair cutting thing on a regular basis. You know, honestly, that's what Temple Grandin's mother did to her, did with her with the spinning plate. We've had Temple on the show before, and she's talked about that there was a metal plate at the foot of her bed, and she just loved to spin it. That it was fascinating, and she said to me, quite honestly, if I would love to be spinning it right now. Right now, it's all these years later, I'd like to be doing it right now. But her mom said you can spin it an hour a day, but that you have to do all your other work in order to get that hour. And look, great consequences. Now, she didn't become a professional bed plate spinner, right? Because I don't know where that position is. And there is the potential for your child to go into the haircutting business. So in that respect, I think it's really functional. As far as the sweet drink that's the reinforcer in the refrigerator, if you have children of any age that are out there that are taking things out of the cabinet in the refrigerator that are causing them rashes and itches and asthma, the hard advice that I want to give you is to not put it in your home. And that's a bummer, because I'm going to guess that there's somebody else in the house that really enjoys it and it's personal. And for a period of time, maybe not the rest of your lives, that person can have it when they're outside of the house. But if that's a thing and the child is sneaking it inside the house, get rid of it inside the house. If then it moves to that they're sneaking it at school, you can have it written into the IEP and make somebody else responsible for it. It's an allergy, and we don't know at what point allergies get to life-threatening point. It may be that it never does, or it may be that it does the third time he sneaks the drink. I don't know, and I'm guessing that you don't know. So I think you got to be a little bit more on that and feed the things that are more functional, like the haircut. I'm with you that it's much better health-wise that he gets to play with the wigs, and maybe if you're going to garage sales and finding wigs that are older and letting him watch those videos about the hair cutting, I would be finding a haircutting show that's close to you to take him to. I know there are some people would say don't feed that perseveration, but you know, it's functional. It's functional. So I would be allowing it with constraints and having it be the reinforcer. You get your time working on hair stuff as long as you get this stuff done. That's my personal parent opinion. But you need to decide what's right for you. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with more of Autism Live after these messages. Stick with us. Another parent wants to know, how do I find out that one thing that my kid is really good at?
Now, when they get older, they're going to kind of divide into two groups. You're going to have the kids that become verbal, and then you're going to have the kids that are nonverbal, got many more problems. Maybe they still have epilepsy or some other problem. And they kind of need different services. And the ones that get verbal, what we need to be doing with them is develop the area of strength. And that area of strength often will show up around 3rd or 4th grade, sometimes earlier. But my ability in art showed up when I was in 3rd and 4th grade, and it was always encouraged. And I was encouraged to do lots of different kinds of art. Otherwise, it would have just been endless horse heads. You know, Mother would say to me, why don't you draw a picture of a beach or something else? You want to broaden it out. If the kid's fixated on trains, let's teach reading with trains, math with trains. Tap into that fixation, but develop the area of strength. Some kids it's going to be art. Other kids it's going to be mathematics. So you got a 3rd grader who's smart in math, and he wants a 6th grade math book. Give him the 6th grade math book. Don't bore him with the baby stuff. But that kid's going to have trouble with reading, because the common thing is the uneven skills. And then you have the kids that are the history buffs, and these kids are often really good at writing skills. You tend to have uneven skills, but tap into their fixations and use those to motivate, but broaden. If he likes trains, just watching them, well, we're going to take that interest in trains to do some math with it, or maybe read about the history of the railroad. You know, tap into that motivation. One of the things I really want to talk about is we got to stretch these kids. I'm not talking about physically stretching them, mentally stretching them to do new things. I'm seeing too many kids that haven't learned how to shop, how to order food at McDonald's. So you start out, let's say it's ordering food at McDonald's or at Burger King. So you take them up there and they watch you order it. And then eventually you go in when the store's not busy, and they have to go up and order it while you're sitting at the table watching, and then you coach them. And then eventually they can go in the restaurant themselves. I can remember I was scared to go to the lumber yard alone and buy lumber. And Mother made me go. And she knew I could do it. I had bought lumber with her many times. But there's a tendency to want to have somebody else there when they do it, and they've got to learn how to do things alone. And you gradually have got to kind of push it. You've got to stretch them. And I'm seeing too many kids not learning basic skills. Saw a 19-year-old honors student that actually knows how to drive that had never shopped in the grocery store all by herself. That is just ridiculous. You know, you've got to stretch them. You push too hard, there can be panic. And the other thing is no surprises. No surprises. I knew all about the ranch long before I went there. I talked to Ann. But if you don't stretch these kids, they don't grow.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're going to be joined in just a little while by Dr. Linda Copeland. I wanted to let you know that we did know that she was going to be joining us a little bit late today because she is a practicing physician, and when she has a patient that needs her, with all of our doctors, we always say that it's more important that they are with their patients, and she'll join us when she's ready. But until then, we have a couple more questions I wanted to address. Last Tuesday, we had a mom who wrote into us and was concerned about her adult, I think it was a 17-year-old, I kind of count that as an adult, that the school was recommending that she get assistive technology, and she was concerned about that. I referenced on that day that I was sort of channeling one of our guests who watches frequently, Mike Hipple, a wonderful individual who uses assistive technology to speak with us. And I knew that Mike would have some words to say, and Mike has written in. He said, hi, this is for the mom from last Tuesday that wants her school, that wants to get her child a voice, he puts in quotation marks. He says to you, I'm sorry that you aren't able to communicate with your loved one, and I do feel for you. I can't remember how old your child is, but I'm thinking they are older, 16 or 17. The great news is that the school wants to help you and him on getting a communication device or iPad. And he says, he writes to ask you, why are you scared? And I think that that's a really good question to identify identify what the fear is, and that perhaps that's something that Mike could help you with. So if you're watching, if you want to write in and tell us what the fear is, perhaps we can put you in touch with someone who's using assistive technology who can allay your fears and let you know how great it is. I'm told that Dr. Copeland is ready, so we're going to take a short break and get her online with us, and we'll be back with your questions for Dr. Copeland. Stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hey, welcome back to Autism Live. We heard you. Everybody wants
macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, but we're gonna make it allergy free. But here's what's the crazy part of this macaroni and cheese. It's actually healthy.
And it tastes good.
Yeah, it tastes really good.
That's the most important part.
So we're gonna start, we got our water boiling. There's so many variations on the pasta. We're using today a corn pasta. We can verify with the manufacturer that we have a GMO-free product. So let's go ahead and put that in there.
Ooh,
and if you don't mind, stir that up for me, my friend.
Now it's sticking a little bit to the bottom.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
We maybe add a little more high heat oil and spread that around again. One thing you gotta know about gluten-free pasta, if you overcook this, it becomes mush. Let's move this guy over to the other burner so you can see what I'm doing. And now we're gonna start with the old macaroni and cheese sauce. What's great is there's a lot of choices for, you know, different soups. And the way that I look at soups, and again, please follow the recipe on your screen right now. I don't like to measure very often. But what I like to use is a creamy butternut squash soup. So this soup is great because it adds a lot of flavor to the dish, but also gives people another serving of vegetables. With kids, we don't want to over season. Maybe with the adults, we can season some for the kids first, pull it out, serve them, and then add a little more, you know, garlic powder or onion powder or other types of things into your dish. So the next most important thing on this recipe is we're going to add in a thickener and the faux cheese. Now some people like their sauce really thick, so you just add in more cornstarch or more arrowroot, so that's not a big deal. How's that doing? You think it's ready?
I think it's done.
Okay, so why don't we switch? I'll take that, you do that.
Okay.
And I'm going to strain this bad boy here. Here, let me turn that off.
Okay.
Or we're going to cause trouble again.
Trouble in Lisa's kitchen.
Yeah, no!
That's another show.
Don't, yeah, right? So I'm going to go ahead, get this all strained. It's a good consistency. So I'm going to check to make sure our pasta is cooked. So really you just want to make sure, just like any pasta, it's a little bit squeezy, a little bit. Nice. Dude, good job.
Yay.
We're good.
Looks yummy.
So even though the cheese is not totally melted, it's okay, don't panic. What's important is that you're gonna love this recipe once you eat it. What I enjoy most about this recipe is that it smells good, but this stuff is amazing. So if you don't mind, I'm going to serve you some up, and you can maybe blow a little bit on it so you don't burn your mouth. Sorry, I'm once a mom, always a mom.
Just like we tell our kids.
I know, right?
But I can't wait, I'm excited.
So I'm gonna give a shot of this too, but
oh my gosh, that is so good.
This is the ultimate comfort food. So
oh, it's so
good. Isn't it good?
And I'm not just saying that, it is really good. It literally tastes like something our kids would really like, and that sweetness is really, really, really good.
So the bonus for us is that when we're serving this to our kids, they're actually getting a full serving of vegetables in this. So instead of just eating a bunch of carbs and worthless calories, you're actually getting some good stuff in this. And we'll be back next time. I hope you join us again here on Autism Live. We're really loving the feedback, and if you have additional feedback, here's how you get it to us. You can send it to us via email at autismlive@gmail.com. On Facebook, facebook.com/autismlive. And also there's thousands of recipes waiting for you to discover them with pictures and different things on the TACA website. So you can hit TACA on the web, tacanow.org, and we'll be back. Hopefully we'll get to do this again.
I had so much fun.
Maybe we'll have a little wine, but you got to join us next time. We'll look forward to seeing you then.
Bye guys, we're gonna keep eating.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman with Taka. My
Hi.
guest here.
I am Jennifer Lucero with Taka.
Taka Mom's here in the house. Jeff saw on a TV commercial, they were making calzones, and he looked at me and goes, Mom, please make me that. Wait a minute, yeah, calzone, you can't have calzone. He goes, well, you make me pizza. Why don't we call it a puzzone? So we're gonna do this ode to Jeff, puzzone. So I'm gonna have Jen, come on in.
All right.
You're in charge.
Ready.
We're gonna add a little grapeseed oil, garlic, cut up chicken, finely cut up onion, and we're gonna throw a little bit of basil. So we're gonna just take about 5 minutes or so, saute up the chicken and all of the onions together. While Jen is slaving away at the stove, I'm gonna make the pizza crust. A lot of gluten-free choices that you have out there for pizza crust. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the dry. Again, I'm using eggs. There are a lot of egg replacers on the Taka website. We have about a dozen different ways to replace eggs. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my shortening. Calls for a little extra salt, which I'm going to put in here. And also add a little pepper. And we also have herbs de Provence that gives the crust a nice Italian flavor. Can't forget the apple cider vinegar, organic stuff ready to go. Yes, I have all my ingredients. We're ready to rock with this mixer. And don't be afraid of dough. Dough doesn't bite. So here's what we'll be working with to make the puzzone. I'm ready to go. Let's get this party started. So what we're gonna do next is roll out the dough. I like to be rolling in the dough, but we're gonna roll out the dough instead. So let's go ahead and get started here with that. So again, you see me using the parchment paper all the time. Love this stuff. It's basically unbleached, ready to go. It's just gonna make life a lot easier on your rolling pin. You don't need to coat it or anything, which is a lot easier, but I swear I should buy that by the gross ton. So the puzzones, this basically makes 2 big puzzones. I'm gonna take half of the dough and roll it out. Half of the other dough will be for the other puzzone that we're gonna make in just a little bit. So you wanna do, you're not making a pie crust, you're kind of making a long oval shape. So we're gonna try to make a shape where I'm gonna basically roll this over with all the yummy fillings. And so any combination or variation thereof, this sauce, just real simple, is organic crushed tomatoes. I've added a little bit of salt and pepper and herbs de Provence in that as well, which I love. I like extra fresh basil. That's always yummy to have on your puzzone. And thank you, this turned out fantastic. So we're just basically building it the way that we want to eat it. Of course, my favorite rice-free, organic, dairy-free, soy-free cheese. It's gonna pop off the sides.
Okay.
I'm not afraid of popping out the sides. So that's the beauty of the parchment paper. Once you're done, you just flip it over and peel it back. So I'm just taking a fork now and going around the edges. It looks so pretty.
It looks really nice.
So for 400 degrees, we're gonna go for about 25 minutes. You want it golden brown. And because we cooked everything pretty much already, you're not worried about not having everything fully cooked. So look how cute those look.
Looks great.
Like those 4 happy people right there. This weighs a ton. So let's go to the magic oven. Pull out our finished product. And voila!
Good.
Oh my
It
gosh,
looks
this
beautiful.
is so yummy. There's nothing better than a little Jeff Ackerman puzzone. And this is going to be nuclear hot, but we'll go ahead and cut it open so you can. Oh my gosh, this is going to taste so good
That
later
looks
on for
great.
your kids.
Yum.
Feedback, keep it coming. Thank you for helping, Jen.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us. Come back to Autism Live. We'll keep doing allergy-friendly cooking classes. If you have any suggestions or things that you would like to see us make, bring it on. You can reach us at autismlive@gmail.com or Facebook.
Love the Facebook.
I know, too much for me. Facebook, so facebook.com/autismlive, or thousands of taco recipes ready to go. Basically go to Takanow, TACANOW.org, and we'll see you next time.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are so thrilled because we were able to get Dr. Linda Copeland on the line, as I mentioned before. She is a practicing developmental pediatrician and a board-certified behavior analyst, and we appreciate you being with us, Dr. Copeland. I know you are treating individuals, and that, you know, that schedule comes before everything else, and you were busy with a patient this morning, but so grateful that you can join us for a few minutes now, and we were able to work out the Skype to get you with us. So thank you for being with us. I'm going to dive right into a question that somebody wrote in that I can't wait to hear your answer. They want to know, what are the signs of PANDAS? My son had 3 episodes of strep in 1 year. Should I get him tested? What is the test, and what would the treatment be if he has it? I have heard that it is treated with antibiotics. He did multiple rounds of antibiotics when he had the strep. Would that have taken care of it?
Okay, well, strep is a very common bacteria, and it's common to cause infections, especially in the throat, in the nose. It can also cause skin infections, and there's different forms of strep. But when we're talking about strep throat, there's one specific kind, strep pyogenes, that's common. And we do have lab tests when a child is sick with fever and a red swollen back of their throat, where we can swab the back of the throat and either do a rapid strep test in the office or send it out for culture if need be, to see if there's strep throat. So strep throat is common among all children. And just because a child has recurrent strep throat does not mean they have PANDAS. What PANDAS is, it is one category of a larger group of conditions called PANS, which is pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndromes. And PANS is actually rare, fairly rare, not nearly as common as strep infection, strep throat, and not as common as autism in general. So PANDAS is just one type of PANS where the acute onset of neuropsychiatric symptoms is immediately along with the development of the strep infection. There's no specific lab test for PANDAS or PANS. It's really a medical history. Obviously, you have to have documented, strep infection, significant strep infection, but that's not enough to make the diagnosis. It's a behavioral diagnosis. And to qualify for a PANDAS condition, the symptoms have to not be very present when the child is physically well, and can't be going on even intermittently, on and off for a long period of time. They have to come on very acutely and suddenly with a strep illness. And then when you treat the strep, the symptoms pretty much have to go away. So a lot of the neuropsychiatric symptoms in PANDAS can mimic some conditions or concerns that families have with their children with autism spectrum disorder. There can be obsessive compulsive behaviors, there can be tics, there can be sudden onset of urinary control problems, there can be irritability and so forth, with high anxiety. But if the child intermittently has anxiety when they're physically well and not having strep, you can't really make a case for PANDAS. And also if a child has recurrent strep throat, but their symptom profile is about the same whether they have strep throat or when they don't have strep throat, then you can't make a case for PANDAS either. In my clinical experience, while it's hypothesized that many of the behavioral challenges in autism are related to PANDAS issues. I clinically haven't personally experienced that in the patients that I've seen over the years in most children that I've seen with autism spectrum disorder. So I think PANDAS can occur in a child with autism spectrum. PANDAS can occur in a child who doesn't have autism spectrum, but it's not a really common condition, and there's strict federal guidelines for diagnosing it with this very, very acute and sudden onset of relatively new symptoms the child really didn't show very much of before. They get acutely worse with the strep infection, then acutely go away when you've treated it. So if your son's autism symptoms didn't remit, or the behaviors of concern when they had the strep infection and then when it was treated, I don't think you're looking at PANDAS. Now, if you think the child's symptoms got dramatically worse when they had the strep infection and dramatically improved and were mostly gone when it was treated, then you might want to have your pediatrician contact the National Center for Disease Control to see if there's enough there to meet the strict criteria. And one of the issues with PANDAS is that you want to make sure you've eradicated the strep bacteria. So it means another course of antibiotics. And of course, we don't want to be overusing antibiotics. We know that can create problems with the gut microbiome. The other thing that it can occur, just to make life complicated, is that without having PANDAS per se, some children, whether or not they have autism spectrum disorder, can get recurrent strep infections. It might be recurrent strep throat or recurrent impetigo, occasionally more serious strep infections. The strep bacteria can sometimes be involved in an ear infection or infections of the mucosal membranes elsewhere in the body. And they can become chronic carriers for strep, even without having the neuropsychiatric symptoms. It just means when they're a chronic carrier, they could have another acute illness again of the strep with fever and pain and tenderness. To check for that, after the child's strep throat has been cleared up or whatnot, the doctor could do another culture or swab to see if strep is still present at the back of the nose and pharynx. And if it is, there's a different set of antibiotics you use for clearing the kind of chronic colonization that can occur. And sometimes they'll check everybody in the whole family because the people can be colonized within the family and kind of keep the colonization going, even at times when they're not ill. It's also recommended that you change your toothbrush frequently and sterilize the toothbrush as you go through the course of antibiotics. So for most cases, I would think that symptoms of autism are not due to PANDAS. We want to avoid unnecessary use of antibiotics, but if you really think this is a sudden, dramatic change of really unusual symptoms they don't have at other times, then I would contact the Center for Disease Control.
Okay. And just to be clear, Dr. Copeland, it sounds like the exact thing that you would do to treat strep throat is what you would do to treat the PANDAS. You just would be a little bit more diligent in making sure that it cleaned it up. Is that correct?
For the most part, for most PANDAS, that once you retreat the strep and get rid of the colonization, the high anxiety, the obsessive compulsive disorder, in most cases the tics and the other behaviors of concern do abruptly go away. Okay. Occasionally there's more severe cases of PANDAS where they look at more invasive treatment, but I would say the majority of PANDAS, and PANDAS is uncommon in the first place, and then the more severe PANDAS is even rarer. But yeah, okay. Basically you're right.
Okay, and we're just about out of time, so we don't really have time for another question, but I wondered if you would take just a moment to address, for people who have written in and said, how can I be seen by Dr. Copeland? What are the possibilities for people to have their children seen by you?
Well, there's a number of ways. A card is helping me get on more and more insurance panels. It's a slow process. Currently, I can take United Healthcare, the commercial plan. I can take TRICARE, which is the military insurance. I can take Cigna. I can take Molina Medi-Cal. And I can't yet take Anthem Blue Cross. I'm hoping to get on that in the next, I hope in the next 2 to 4 months, because it's a big one. So that would be one way. The other way would be to, if the family wants to do an out-of-pocket visit here in California. I'm only licensed right now in the state of California, so I can only see children within the state of California.
Where can they call, though? I hate to interrupt you, Dr. Copeland, but we're almost out of time. Where can they call to get on your schedule?
I'd call the CARD corporate office at 818-345-2345. Or they could call the West Sacramento office and leave me a voicemail message, and I'd call them back to refer them to corporate. And that number here is 916-374-0800.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm sorry that it didn't get to be longer, but we so appreciate the time that we had, Dr. Copeland. Yes. All right. Take care, Dr. Copeland.
Take care. Bye-bye.
We are here at the end of the show, and I just want to take a couple of seconds to remind you that tomorrow, Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grandpichet will be here to answer your questions. You know I love that hour. I know you guys do too. Then in the second hour, we have Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson joining me for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We're going to get to all that important news that came out over the weekend. We have Dr. Keith Story, who's going to be joining us, talking about his book, which has everything to do with helping our kids to get employed. You know, this is a big topic that we love to talk about. We're going to continue to talk about social skills. It promises to be a great week. And then on Thursday, we're going to be talking a little bit with Sarah Gershfeld from Love My Provider. She was with us at the walk on Saturday. We had a great time with her. We're going to be showing you that video that we did from the Autism Speaks walk on Thursday as well. We've got a big show for you. I just wanted to take a second to tell all of you, especially those of you who we met, but honestly, all of those of you who were there and that we didn't meet, and those of you who couldn't be there at the walk, what an amazing privilege it is to be on this journey with you. All the people that it takes to make up this beautiful community. I just appreciate you fully from the bottom of my heart. It was truly a wonderful experience to be there and feel the love. And if you didn't get to be there, I want you to know that it spread way past the Rose Bowl and that you were included with it, whether you knew it or not. We're out of time. Until tomorrow, give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.